I sat alone at my first house closing, staring at a modest three-bedroom ranch that took me 7 years to save for. The real estate agent asked if anyone else was coming. I checked my phone. 0 messages from my parents or my golden child brother, Derek. I signed the papers with trembling hands, trying not to cry. The agent took a photo of me holding the keys, calling me brave for doing this alone. I smiled for the camera, but inside I was breaking. This was supposed to be my proudest moment. I spent my first 2 days in the house unpacking boxes in complete silence. The quiet felt heavy, almost suffocating. Every time I placed a picture frame or arranged a throw pillow, I thought about calling my family to share my excitement. But I didn't. Some part of me already knew they wouldn't care. Growing up, I watched my parents pour everything into Derek. When he turned 16, they bought him a brand new Honda Civic with a bow on top. I got a card that said, "Congratulations on getting your license," and the privilege of driving mom's minivan when she didn't need it. Derek went to Arizona State University on my parents' dime. They paid his tuition, his rent, his meal plan, even his textbooks. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through community college, taking out loans that I'm still paying off at 28 years old. After graduating with a business degree that took me 5 years to complete because I could only afford part-time enrollment, I started as a receptionist at a marketing firm. I made $11 an hour and ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every single day. I wore the same 3 outfits to work on rotation until my boss, Janet, quietly left a gift card to Target on my desk one Christmas. No note, just kindness. Over 6 years, I clawed my way up to marketing consultant. I never took a vacation. I never bought new clothes unless the old ones literally fell apart. I packed my lunch every day, declined every happy hour invitation, lived with roommates until I was 27. Every spare dollar went into my savings account. I watched that number grow with an obsession that probably wasn't healthy, but it was the only thing that felt like mine. When I finally had enough for a down payment on a small house in a decent Phoenix neighborhood, I cried in my car in the bank parking lot. Not from joy, exactly. More from exhaustion. From the weight of doing everything alone finally becoming too much to carry silently. I bought a porch swing 3 days after moving in. It was my one splurge, $400 of pure self-indulgence. I assembled it myself, screwing in bolts until my hands cramped, and sat on it as the sun set over my little patch of yard. I took photos of every room. The kitchen with its outdated linoleum that I planned to replace someday. The living room with thrift store furniture that I'd arranged just so. The bedroom with a bed I'd owned since college, now dressed in new sheets I'd bought to celebrate. I sent all the photos to our family group chat with a caption that made my stomach twist as I typed it. Finally, a homeowner. 3 little words and an exclamation point that felt like begging for approval. I waited for responses. I checked my phone every 10 minutes for the first 2 hours. Then every 30 minutes. Then every hour. 48 hours passed. Nothing. Not a congratulations. Not a thumbs up emoji. Not even a seen receipt to show they'd opened the message. On the 3rd day, I was standing on a stepladder installing curtain rods in my bedroom when my phone buzzed. My heart jumped. Finally. I nearly fell off the ladder reaching for it. The message was from Dad. Send $50,000 so your brother can buy a new car. Can't have him losing to you. I read it 3 times. Then 3 more times. No hello. No congratulations on the house. No acknowledgement that I'd achieved something I'd worked toward for nearly a decade. Just a demand for an amount of money that was more than my entire annual salary after taxes. I climbed down from the ladder very carefully and walked outside to my porch swing. I sat there rereading the message, my coffee going cold in my hand. Derek had just gotten promoted to assistant manager at a car dealership owned by Dad's friend. He made decent money. Not great money, but decent. The problem was he spent every dollar he earned on his girlfriend, bar tabs, and a gaming setup that cost more than my first car. I thought about all the times ED helped them before. When Derek needed $3,000 for emergency dental work that turned out to be cosmetic veneers, when my parents needed $5,000 to repair their roof, and I drove by their house 2 weeks later to see the roof looked exactly the same as it always had. When Derek needed $2,000 for a certification course he never completed. When Mom needed $4,000 for medical bills that her insurance had actually covered completely. I pulled up my banking app and calculated. Over 6 years, I had given my family $41,000. I never asked for it back. I never expected anything in return. They never said thank you. My hands were shaking, but my mind was suddenly, startlingly clear. I opened the payment app and typed in my father's information. I entered an amount, $1. In the memo line, I wrote 2 words, for gas. Then I sent a text to the family group chat. That's all the help Derek gets from me. Congratulations on my house would have been nice. I blocked all 3 of their numbers before I could second guess myself. For exactly 10 minutes, I felt powerful, righteous, free. Then my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a locksmith standing on my porch, toolbox in hand. He smiled pleasantly and said he was here to change the locks, that my father had called and paid for it as a surprise security upgrade since I'd just moved in. My blood went cold. When my parents had come to help me move, which consisted of them showing up for exactly 1 hour and carrying in 3 boxes, I'd given them a spare key. Just to be polite, just to include them in this milestone even though they'd done nothing to help me reach it. Now they had access to my house, to everything I'd worked for. I told the locksmith yes, absolutely change the locks, but made him promise that no old keys would work, that I would be the only person with copies. He looked at me with the kind eyes of someone who'd seen family drama before and nodded. As he worked, I noticed a car parked across the street. A blue Honda Accord with a dent in the front bumper. The same car Derek had been driving for the past 3 years, the one he claimed was falling apart and needed replacing. I watched that car for 20 minutes. It never moved. I couldn't see through the tinted windows, but I knew someone was in there, watching me, watching my house. When the locksmith finished, I held my new keys in my palm. 3 copies, each one mine and mine alone. I paid him in cash, thanked him, and locked the door behind him. That night, I propped a chair against the front door handle before going to bed. It was irrational. I had new locks, but I couldn't shake the image of that blue Honda sitting across from my house, idling in the shadows. 4 days after I sent that $1 payment, I came home from work to find my mailbox stuffed so full I could barely open it. 7 envelopes, all addressed in my mother's handwriting, all mailed on different days. I carried them inside and sat at my kitchen table, my hands shaking as I opened them in order based on the postmark dates. The first letter started with, "How dare you disrespect your father like this? We raised you better than to be so cruel and selfish." The third letter accused me of thinking I was better than them now that I had a house. "You were always stuck up, even as a little girl. Always thought you were smarter than everyone else." The fifth letter was 3 pages long, listing every sacrifice they'd ever made for me. Every meal they'd cooked, every time they'd driven me somewhere, every Christmas present they'd bought. As if I owed them a financial return on the basic requirements of parenting. The 7th letter was about Derek. "Your brother is crying because of you. He needs that car for work. His transmission is failing. Without reliable transportation, he'll lose his job. You're destroying his future because you're selfish and bitter." I read them all twice. Then I went to my bedroom and cried into my pillow for an hour. When I finally stopped, I felt empty, hollowed out. Part of me wanted to call them and apologize, to send the money, and make everything go back to normal. But I knew normal meant being their ATM. Normal meant sacrificing my own stability to fund their poor decisions. I unblocked their numbers. Immediately, my phone exploded. Texts from Mom. "Your brother is devastated. How can you live with yourself?" Texts from my Aunt Susan, my mother's sister who I'd always liked. "Family helps family. What's wrong with you?" Texts from my cousin Jennifer, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. "Wow, success really changed you." Texts from Dad. "We gave you life. You owe us." I stared at my phone, watching the messages pile up, feeling my resolve crumble. I started typing an apology. "I'm sorry. I overreacted. Let me help with half the cost of the car." My finger hovered over the send button. Then my doorbell rang. It was my best friend, Rachel, holding 2 bottles of wine and wearing the expression of someone on a mission. She took one look at my face and marched inside. She read the letters. She scrolled through the texts. Her face got redder with each one. When she finished, she said, "They didn't ask how you're doing. They didn't congratulate you on the house. They just want money. This isn't love. This is extortion." Rachel pulled out her phone and showed me a discussion thread online about financial abuse in families. I read story after story that could have been written about my life. Adult children drained of their savings. Parents who saw success as something they were entitled to profit from. Siblings who were never held accountable. Always bailed out. Never forced to grow up. Rachel grabbed my shoulders and looked me in the eyes. You need to document everything. Screenshots. Save these letters. Keep a log. This feels like it's going to get worse before it gets better. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning, I opened Facebook just to distract myself. The first post on my feed punched the air from my lungs. My mother had posted on her own wall, heartbroken that my daughter values money more than family, praying for her soul and that she finds her way back to what matters. Please keep us in your thoughts during this difficult time. The post had 63 comments, all of them supporting her, all of them calling me ungrateful. My phone buzzed with notifications. People I hadn't talked to since high school were messaging me. You should be ashamed. How could you do this to your parents? Money isn't everything. Family is forever. I felt sick. I wanted to defend myself, to tell my side, but I knew anything I said would make it worse. Rachel had warned me not to engage on social media, so I just watched as my character was assassinated in real time by people who knew nothing about the situation. Then I saw Derek's profile. Head changed his picture to him standing next to his old blue Honda, rust visible on the bumper, his expression pitiful. The caption read, "Guess I'll make this work. Some people forget where they came from." 147 likes. Comments calling me selfish. Comments saying he deserved better. I closed Facebook and threw my phone across the room. The next morning, I received a message request from someone I didn't know. A woman named Amanda. You don't know me, but I dated your brother 3 years ago. I need to tell you something about your family. Can we meet? I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Yes. Tomorrow. Coffee shop near my work. 10 in the morning. That night, someone threw eggs at my front door. 3 of them. Smashed against the wood and dripping down onto my welcome mat. My Ring doorbell camera caught a figure in a dark hoodie. I couldn't see the face, but the car that drove away looked exactly like Derek's blue Honda. I saved the footage. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I was still hoping this would blow over. I met Amanda the next morning. She was thin, with dark circles under her eyes, and she fidgeted with her coffee cup like she was afraid it might explode. She told me Shed dated Derek for 18 months. That 6 months into their relationship, Head told her their mother needed emergency surgery, that the insurance wouldn't cover it and they needed $20,000 immediately or she might die. Amanda was a nurse. Shed'd seen medical bills before. She asked to see the paperwork. Derek said his parents were too proud to show anyone, too embarrassed, but he was desperate. Crying. Begging. Amanda liquidated her savings account. Shed been saving to buy a condo. She gave Derek $20,000. 2 months later, she saw photos on Facebook. Derek standing on a boat. A boat Head bought. A boat Head crashed into a dock 3 weeks later and totaled. When Shed confronted him, Head denied everything. Said the boat belonged to a friend. Said she was crazy and jealous. Amanda had bank statements, text messages, screenshots. She showed me everything. When Shed threatened to sue him, Derek's parents had called her, threatened to file a restraining order against her for harassment. Said they'd destroy her nursing license. She was so scared, she backed off. I felt like I was going to be sick. How many people have they done this to? Amanda's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. But I thought you should know what kind of people they are. I saw your mom's Facebook post and I couldn't stay silent anymore. I thanked her. We exchanged numbers. As I drove back to work, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about $50,000 for a car. This was a pattern, a system. And I had just threatened their primary funding source by saying no. They weren't going to let that go. 1 week after Eid sent that $1 payment, I was working from home, answering emails in my pajamas, when my doorbell rang at 9 in the morning. 2 police officers stood on my porch, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a younger man with a serious expression. The woman spoke first. Are you Carol Henderson? Yes. Is everything okay? My mind raced through possibilities. Had something happened to someone I knew? I'm Officer Patterson, and this is Officer Rodriguez. We received a wellness check request. Your parents are very worried about you. They say you've been acting erratically and they're concerned about your mental health. I felt the ground tilt. What? May we come inside? I let them in because I didn't know what else to do. Officer Patterson looked around my living room, taking in the neat furniture, the clean surfaces, the complete absence of anything alarming. Your parents say you've been sending threatening messages and that you stole money from your brother. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. I showed them the original text from my father demanding $50,000. I showed them my $1 payment with the gas memo. I showed them the messages from my family, the Facebook posts, everything. Officer Rodriguez and Officer Patterson exchanged a long look. This looks like a family dispute, not a criminal matter, Officer Patterson said carefully. But I'd advise you to keep documentation of everything, just in case. As they walked to the door, Officer Rodriguez paused and handed me a card. He spoke quietly, almost under his breath. Domestic abuse isn't just physical. If you need resources, call this number. There are people who can help. After they left, I sat on my couch in complete shock. My parents had called the police on me. They'd lied to law enforcement, wasted their time, tried to make me look unstable. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Did you enjoy your visit from the police? My mother's voice was cold, triumphant. This is just the beginning. Give Derek the money and this all goes away. You called the police on me? My voice was shaking. For what? For not giving you money? For being ungrateful? For abandoning your family? You think you're so smart with your house and your job. But we made you. And we can break you. I hung up. My hands were trembling so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I remembered what Officer Rodriguez had said. Documentation. I spent the next 3 hours creating a spreadsheet of every financial request from my family over the past 6 years. Every amount, every reason given, every lie uncovered. Derek's emergency dental work that was actually cosmetic veneers. $3,000. Parents' roof repair that never happened. $5,000. Derek's certification course he never completed. $2,000. Mom's medical bills that insurance covered. $4,000. The list went on. $1,000 over 6 years. Money I'd given freely, never expecting it back, never receiving even a thank you. I was staring at the spreadsheet when my work email pinged. My stomach dropped when I saw it was from Human Resources. Carol, we need to discuss some concerning phone calls we've received about you. Please call me as soon as possible. Margaret, HR Director. I called my boss Janet immediately. She answered on the first ring. Carol, I'm going to be direct with you because I respect you. Your mother called the company this morning. She said you've been embezzling funds to support a gambling addiction. The room spun. What? I know it's not true. I've looked at your work. You've caught billing errors that saved us money. You're one of our most honest employees. But I have to follow protocol. We need to do an audit. I could barely speak. They're trying to destroy my career. Janet's voice softened. I'm giving you administrative leave with pay while we sort this out. Honestly, Carol, this sounds like harassment. Have you considered a restraining order? After I hung up, I sat in silence. They weren't just asking for money anymore. They were systematically trying to ruin my life. That evening, I walked outside to get my mail and stopped dead. All 4 of my car tires were slashed. Clean cuts. Deliberate. I checked my Ring camera footage and saw the same hooded figure from before. This time, when they reached for the tire, their sleeve pulled up. I could see a tattoo on their wrist, a phoenix rising from flames. Derek had that exact tattoo. It'd been there when he got it for his 21st birthday. I called the police. Officer Patterson responded again. When she saw the footage and the tattoo, her expression hardened. You need to file for a restraining order. This is escalating. Keep documenting everything. You're going to need it. That night, Rachel came over and found me crying on my kitchen floor. She sat beside me and said firmly, Enough. Tomorrow we're going to a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. The company audit is going to drain my savings if they find anything wrong, which they won't, but the stress alone is killing me. Rachel pulled out her laptop. Then we do this ourselves. But we do it smart. We document everything, we file for a restraining order, and we stop being reactive. It's time to fight back. We stayed up until 3 in the morning, organizing evidence, taking screenshots, creating timelines. When I finally fell asleep on the couch, I dreamed of my house burning down with me inside. In the dream, my family stood outside and watched. Rachel and I spent the entire weekend building a case. Rachel worked in data analytics, and she approached my family drama like it was a work project. She created a comprehensive timeline with dates, amounts, and evidence for every incident. We compiled text messages, emails, bank statements, social media posts, police reports, ring camera footage, and the letters my mother had sent. I contacted Amanda, and she agreed to help. She connected me with two other women Derek had scammed. The first woman, a teacher named Jessica, had lost $15,000 to a fake investment opportunity Derek had pitched. The second, a bartender named Lucia, had lost $8,000 when Derek claimed he needed bail money after a false arrest. Both women had similar stories. Derek crying, making them feel sorry for him, his parents backing up his lies, and then complete denial when confronted. Rachel ran background checks on my parents and Derek using public records databases. What she found made everything click into place. Derek had two small claims court judgments against him, totaling $12,000 that had never paid. My father had 3 liens on his business for unpaid debts totaling $37,000. My mother had filed for bankruptcy 7 years ago. They'd been financially unstable for years, probably decades. It'd just been too busy surviving to notice. My success hadn't made them proud. It had made me a target. I used my lunch break on Monday to call a family law attorney named Marcus Brennan. The receptionist offered a free 30-minute consultation. I took it. I explained everything in a rush, barely pausing to breathe. Marcus listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. You have grounds for a restraining order. Possibly a civil suit for defamation if the HR issue damages your career. But I'll be honest about costs. My retainer is $5,000. My savings account had $4,200 left after the house down payment. I can't afford that. Marcus paused. Then he said something that surprised me. I'm going to tell you something off the record. Document everything. Screenshots, recordings if it's legal in your state. Arizona is a one-party consent state. So you're good there. Then file for a restraining order yourself at the courthouse. Filing fee is $45. I'll email you a template. Why are you helping me? Because I've seen cases like this destroy people. You seem like you're trying to do the right thing. Sometimes the system should be more accessible. As I was leaving his office building, I literally ran into someone. When I looked up to apologize, I recognized her. Mrs. Patterson, my high school guidance counselor. She was older now, her hair completely gray, but her eyes were the same. Carol Henderson? She smiled. How are you? I broke down right there on the sidewalk. She guided me to a bench, and I told her everything. When I finished, Mrs. Patterson looked furious. Your mother called me last week. She asked me to write a letter saying you had behavioral problems in school. I refused. Carol, you were one of the hardest working students I ever counseled. You worked 2 jobs while taking AP classes. You were never a problem. I felt cold. They're calling everyone from my past, trying to build a narrative that I'm unstable. Mrs. Patterson squeezed my hand. I'll write you a letter of character reference. And if they ever contact me again, I'll tell them exactly what I told your mother, that she should be proud of you, not trying to tear you down. 3 days later, HR called me back to the office. I met with Janet and a financial auditor. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. The auditor, a serious woman in her 60s, looked at me over her glasses. Your records are spotless. Actually, in the past year, you've caught 3 billing errors that saved the company approximately $15,000. Whoever made those accusations was lying. I nearly cried with relief. Janet spoke firmly. You're not in trouble, Carol, but this is targeted harassment. We're banning your family members' phone numbers from our company directory, and I'm writing you a formal letter of commendation for your personnel file. If they try this again anywhere else, you'll have proof of your integrity. After I left, Janet caught up with me in the parking lot. She spoke quietly. My sister went through something similar with her in-laws. They tried to take her house, her kids, everything. It's financial abuse, Carol. Please protect yourself. That night, Derek made a critical mistake. He posted on Facebook at 11:30 at night. Some people think they're better than their family. Karma's coming. I screenshot it immediately. 20 minutes later, another post. Can't believe my sister called the cops on me for checking on her. Psycho. I captured that too. Then I read the comments. Derek's friends were egging him on, but one comment made my blood run cold. Derek's best friend Travis had written, "Dude, just wait till she sees what we did to her car." The comment was timestamped before id discovered my slashed tires. I screenshot everything and sent it to Officer Patterson. She responded within minutes. That's evidence of premeditation. File for a restraining order tomorrow. Bring everything you have. I stayed up until 3 in the morning filling out the court forms. I attached 40 pages of evidence, text messages, bank records, photos of my slashed tires, ring camera footage showing the tattoo, police reports, screenshots of social media posts. I wrote a 10-page narrative detailing 7 years of financial exploitation, the escalating harassment, and my fear for my safety. Rachel proofread everything and added suggestions. She helped me organize it into a binder with tabs and a table of contents. We made 3 copies. The next morning, I took a sick day. I drove to the courthouse with shaking hands and stood in line for 2 hours. When I finally reached the clerk's window, I handed over my packet. The clerk, a woman in her 50s, flipped through the evidence. She looked up at me with something like respect. "This is one of the most documented cases I've seen. The judge will see you in 3 days for the temporary order hearing." The filing fee was $45 per person. I was filing against 3 people, $135 total. I paid in cash. As I walked out of the courthouse, my phone buzzed. Email from my mortgage company. "We've received notice that you may have committed fraud on your loan application." I stopped walking. People flowed around me on the sidewalk. I stood frozen, reading the email 3 times. I called the mortgage company from the courthouse parking lot. The representative explained that someone had called claiming to be my employer, saying Ed lied about my income. "That's not true. Please call my actual employer. Please. We will investigate, ma'am. But your account is flagged. We may need to review your loan terms." I sat in my car and screamed. Just screamed until my throat hurt. Then I called Marcus Brennan. "I need you. I'll figure out the money. They're trying to take my house. Come to my office. Well, work something out." That night, Rachel suggested something I'd been resisting. Start a GoFundMe for legal fees. That's humiliating. No. Asking for help isn't weakness, and your story might help other people recognize financial abuse in their own lives. I wrote the post carefully, sticking to facts, not using my family's names. I explained the situation simply: a family demanding money, escalating to harassment, slashed tires, false police reports, attempts to get me fired and lose my house. I needed legal help. I posted it to my private Facebook and asked friends to share. Within 6 hours, I'd raised $4,000. The messages that came with the donations made me cry. This happened to me with my mother-in-law. "Thank you for speaking up. You're so brave. This is financial abuse and you don't deserve it. My brother did this to me for years. Seeing you fight back gave me courage to say no." I realized I wasn't alone. This was happening to people everywhere, and by fighting back, maybe I was helping more than just myself. The temporary restraining order hearing was on a Tuesday morning at 9. I arrived at 7:30, too anxious to wait at home. Marcus met me in the hallway with coffee and a calm expression that I desperately needed to see. "The State Attorney General's office contacted me yesterday. They're opening a formal investigation into your father's business. Apparently, you're not the first person to complain." I didn't have time to process that because the courtroom doors opened. My parents walked in with Derek trailing behind them. They'd hired a lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked bored. My father had somehow found money for that, but not for the debts he owed. They sat on the opposite side of the courtroom. My mother wouldn't look at me. Derek looked angry. My father stared at me with undisguised hatred. Judge Marianne Chen entered, a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back tightly. She reviewed the evidence packets without expression. The hearing began. Their lawyer spoke first, painting me as a vindictive daughter having a mental health crisis. "This is a misunderstanding. They're a loving family concerned about her well-being. She's cut off all contact, blocked their numbers, and filed this restraining order out of spite." Marcus stood. He was calm, methodical, devastating. He presented the text demanding $50,000. The letters, the false police wellness check, the HR complaint, the slashed tires, Derek's social media posts, including his friend's comment about the car before I'd discovered the damage. Judge Chen looked at Derek. "Did you post karma's coming about your sister?" Derek stammered. "It's just Facebook. I didn't mean anything." "And did your friend comment about her car before or after her tires were slashed?" Their lawyer tried to object. Judge Chen cut him off, asking the respondent a direct question. Derek went pale. "I don't remember." Judge Chen's expression hardened. She reviewed the Ring camera footage showing the Phoenix tattoo. She looked at photos of Derek's tattoo from his public Facebook profile. Identical. Granting the temporary restraining order. All three respondents must stay 500 feet away from the petitioner, her home, and her workplace. Full hearing in 30 days. Walking out of that courtroom felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in weeks. But it wasn't over. That afternoon, my mother posted a long rant on Facebook. "My daughter has weaponized the courts against her own family. We only wanted to help her, and she's destroyed us. Please pray for our family during this persecution." But this time, people fought back. Amanda commented immediately. "She's protecting herself from financial abusers. Derek owes me $20,000 he got by lying about a medical emergency." Jessica added her story. "He took $15,000 from me with a fake investment scheme." Lucia wrote about her $8,000. Mrs. Patterson, my guidance counselor, commented. "I've known Carol since she was 14 years old. She's one of the most honest, hardworking people I've ever met. This post is manipulative and false." Within 3 hours, my mother deleted the post. But I had screenshots. The mortgage company called me the next day. "We contacted your employer directly. Your loan application was accurate. We're closing this false complaint and flagging it as fraud. If you file a police report, well, cooperate with the investigation." I filed another police report that afternoon. Officer Patterson was starting to know me by name. "Your family really doesn't quit, do they?" "No, they don't." 2 days later, I received a certified letter at work. My hands shook opening it. "Cease and desist. Defamation." My parents were threatening to sue me for $50,000 for damaging their reputation. The letter claimed I'd posted lies on social media, filed false police reports, and slandered Derek's character. It demanded I retract everything and pay damages. I called Marcus immediately. He read the letter and actually laughed. "This is a slap suit. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. They're trying to scare you into silence. But this might be the mistake that ruins them." "Why?" "Because now we can countersue. And discovery in a defamation case means they'll have to provide financial records, communications, everything. They just opened a door they can't close." Marcus filed 2 motions, one to dismiss their defamation suit as frivolous, another filing a civil suit against my family for harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, and destruction of property. He demanded $41,000 in restitution, $10,000 in damages, and legal fees. Your GoFundMe covered my retainer. If we win, they pay everything else. 3 days later, a reporter from the local news contacted me. "I'm doing a story on financial abuse in families. Your court filings are public record. Would you be willing to share your story?" I was terrified. But I thought about Amanda, Jessica, Lucia, about the messages from strangers saying my GoFundMe post had helped them recognize their own abuse, about Mrs. Patterson saying I was brave. I agreed. The segment aired on a Wednesday evening. I sat on my couch watching myself on television talking about 7 years of exploitation, the $50,000 demand, the escalating harassment. The reporter interviewed a psychologist who specialized in financial abuse. She explained how common this was, how families often saw successful members as resources rather than people. The segment went viral locally. Then a national news site picked it up. My phone exploded with messages. But one message mattered most. My Uncle Tom, my father's brother, who I hadn't spoken to in years. "I saw you on the news. I need to tell you something about your father." We met at a coffee shop the next morning. Uncle Tom looked older than I remembered, tired and sad. "Your father has been running this pattern for 40 years. He burned through your grandparents' retirement savings. They died broke because of him. He borrowed $50,000 from me in 2008. Never paid it back. That's why we don't talk. Uncle Tom pulled out a folder. Inside were loan agreements, bounce checks, court documents. He was willing to testify at my hearing. You're not the first victim, Carol. And if you back down, you won't be the last. He needs to face consequences. After the news story aired, everything changed. Neighbors I'd never spoken to brought casseroles. My GoFundMe exceeded $15,000. Women from 3 different states contacted me with their own stories. A therapist who specialized in family trauma offered me free sessions. I started going twice a week. But the biggest change came from Derek. He violated the restraining order by showing up at my workplace. Security detained him. Officer Patterson arrested him. He spent a night in county jail. Bail was set at $5,000. My parents scraped together the money. But according to mutual friends, Derek was furious at them now. This is your fault. You pushed her too hard. You made me do your dirty work, and now I have a record. The night before the full restraining order hearing, I received an email that changed everything. It was from a man named Robert Chen, my father's business partner. Subject line: You deserve to know. The email contained attached financial documents. My father's contracting business had been insolvent for 3 years, had been taking loans from elderly clients, promising high returns on investments, then using new investors' money to pay old investors. A Ponzi scheme. Robert wrote, I've been complicit and am ashamed. I'm turning evidence over to the state attorney general. Your father is going to be investigated for elder fraud. I thought you should know before the hearing. I forwarded everything to Marcus and Officer Patterson. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was criminal. I barely slept before the hearing. I arrived at the courthouse at 7:30 for a 9 o'clock start. Marcus met me with coffee and a serious expression. The state attorney general's office is opening a formal investigation into your father's business. Elder fraud? Multiple victims? My parents arrived separately from Derek. They weren't speaking. Derek looked terrible, haggard and angry. My mother stared at the floor. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. Judge Chen took the bench and reviewed the additional evidence that had been submitted. The courtroom was silent except for papers rustling. This is now a full evidentiary hearing. Well, hear testimony under oath. Marcus called me first. I walked to the witness stand on shaking legs and swore to tell the truth. Then I told my story from the beginning. Every financial request, every lie, the house purchase, the $50,000 demand, the harassment, the slashed tires, the false reports. Their lawyer cross-examined me. Isn't it true you're estranged from your family because of your own mental health issues? No. I have a letter from my therapist confirming I have no diagnosed mental health conditions. I'm estranged because they demanded $50,000 and then harassed me when I refused. The lawyer tried to make me look vindictive. I stayed calm. Marcus had prepared me well. Then Marcus called his witnesses. Amanda testified about Derek's $20,000 scam. Jessica and Lucia told their stories. Uncle Tom testified about the $50,000 my father had borrowed and never repaid. Mrs. Patterson testified that my mother had tried to recruit her to lie. The evidence was overwhelming. Then their lawyer called Derek to testify. Derek was supposed to deny everything, to say I was lying. But when he sat in that witness box and swore to tell the truth, something broke inside him. The lawyer asked, Did you harass your sister? Derek's face crumpled. I didn't want to do any of this. Mom and Dad made me. They said Carol owed us because she was successful and we weren't. The courtroom went completely silent. They made me throw eggs at her house. Dad told me to slash her tires. I didn't want to, but they said she was abandoning us, that she thought she was better than us. Their lawyer tried to stop him. Judge Chen held up a hand. Let him speak. Derek was crying now. I'm tired of being the failure. I'm tired of them using me. Carol worked hard for everything she has. We just took from her. I took from Amanda and Jessica and Lucia too. I'm a screw-up, and they enabled me my whole life. My father stood up suddenly. You ungrateful little brat. After everything we gave you. Judge Chen's voice cut through the courtroom. Sir, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt. My father turned to me, his face purple with rage. That house should be ours. You owe us for raising you. The bailiff moved toward him. We're your parents. You're supposed to take care of us. Judge Chen stood. Bailiff, Remove him from my courtroom. As my father was escorted out, he screamed at me, "This isn't over. You'll pay for this." My mother was sobbing. Derek had his head in his hands. Judge Chen called a 15-minute recess. I sat in the hallway, shaking. Marcus brought me water. "You're doing great. This is almost over." When we returned, Judge Chen read her ruling. "I've been on the bench for 23 years. This is one of the clearest cases of financial abuse and familial harassment I've witnessed. I'm granting the permanent restraining order for 5 years. 500 feet distance from the petitioner, her residence, and her workplace." She continued, "I'm ordering the respondents to pay $15,000 in damages and legal fees to the petitioner. The criminal harassment charges will be referred to the district attorney's office." Judge Chen looked directly at me. "You have every right to protect yourself and your assets. Blood relation does not entitle anyone to your money or your peace. This court supports your decision to establish boundaries." Outside the courtroom, Derek approached me. Marcus stepped between us immediately. Derek spoke quietly. "I'm sorry. I really am. You didn't deserve any of this." I looked at my brother. Really looked at him. "You need help, Derek. Real help. Professional help, not their help." He nodded. "I'm moving to Colorado next week to stay with Aunt Linda. I need to get away from them." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. "I'll believe it when I see it, but I hope you get better." My parents left without speaking. My mother was still crying. My father wouldn't look at anyone. The next week, I met with an assistant district attorney named Sarah Williams. She was building criminal cases for harassment, filing false police reports, and destruction of property. The elder fraud case against my father was separate but moving forward. "You can choose whether to press charges. This is your decision." I thought about it for 3 days, finally decided to press charges against Derek for the property destruction. Head admitted it under oath. But I declined to press charges against my parents for the harassment. The restraining order felt like enough. Derek pleaded guilty and got probation with mandatory therapy. I thought that was fair, consequences but also a chance to change. Meanwhile, the state attorney general's investigation moved quickly. My father's business records revealed Head defrauded 11 elderly clients of nearly $400,000 over 3 years. He was arrested and charged with multiple counts of elder fraud and theft by deception. Bail was set at $100,000. My mother couldn't pay it. He sat in county jail awaiting trial. 2 weeks after the hearing, I received a letter. Handwritten, postmarked from a woman's shelter. From my mother, "Carol, I left your father. I should have protected you and Derek. I was weak and scared and I let him control everything. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm getting help. You were right about everything. I'm sorry. There was no request for money. No manipulation. Just an apology." I read it 3 times. I didn't respond. But I didn't throw it away either. I put it in a folder. Maybe someday it'd be ready to talk. But not today. 3 months after the hearing, I sat on my porch swing on a Saturday morning watching the sunrise. My coffee was hot, the air was cool, and my little garden was starting to bloom. The house didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. It felt like home. Work had gotten better too. I'd been promoted to senior marketing consultant with a 20% raise. Janet had pulled me aside after the announcement and said, "Your grace under pressure impressed everyone. You handled a crisis without letting it affect your work quality. That's real strength." The raise helped rebuild my savings. The GoFundMe had raised nearly $8,000 more than I needed for legal fees. I donated the excess to a nonprofit organization that helped victims of family financial abuse. I started going to therapy every week. Dr. Sarah helped me work through the guilt that still lingered. "You didn't cause this, Carol. You set a boundary. Their reaction was their choice, not your responsibility." I joined a support group for survivors of family financial abuse. 6 other people, all with stories that echoed mine. We met every Tuesday evening. It helped to know I wasn't alone, wasn't crazy, wasn't wrong for protecting myself. I started a blog about my experience. At first, I wrote anonymously. Then I used my real name. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of messages from people saying thank you for speaking up. You helped me recognize what was happening to me. You gave me courage to say no. Derek sent me emails from Colorado every few weeks, Short updates. He was working at a sporting goods store, living with our aunt, going to therapy twice a week. One email said, I'm learning I used you as a crutch. I never had to grow up because you always fix things. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be better, I responded briefly. I appreciate the apology. I need more time. But I'm glad you're getting help. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was honest. Maybe years from now, we could have a relationship based on mutual respect. Maybe not. Either way, it'd be okay. My mother attended my father's trial. She testified for the prosecution. He was convicted on 7 counts of elder fraud and sentenced to 8 years in prison with full restitution ordered. After the trial, my mother asked to meet for coffee. I brought Rachel for support. My mother looked older, tired, but clearer eyed than I'd ever seen her. I don't want your money. I don't want anything except to say I'm sorry for failing you. I should have been your mother. Instead, I was his accomplice. She was working as a grocery store cashier, renting a room in a house with 2 other women, attending Anon even though the addiction was financial, not substance. She was trying. I appreciate the apology. I'm not ready for a relationship, but I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. We parted civilly. It was enough for now. My story had an unexpected impact on the community. A city council member introduced a resolution for financial literacy programs that included education about family financial abuse. I was invited to speak at community centers and libraries. I shared my story and offered resources. After one talk, an elderly woman approached me with tears in her eyes. You helped me understand what my son was doing to me. He was taking my social security checks. I'm filing for a restraining order tomorrow. I realized my pain had purpose. By speaking up, I was helping other people recognize abuse and find the courage to protect themselves. I started dating again too. I met someone named Andrew through Rachel. He was a high school teacher, patient and kind. When I told him about my family, he listened without judgment. You're not responsible for other people's choices. You're only responsible for your own integrity. And from everything I can see, your integrity is rock solid. It was early, but it was healthy. I was learning what respectful relationships looked like. On this particular Saturday morning, sitting on the porch swing I'd bought myself with money I'd earned, I thought about the journey. From that lonely house closing to right now, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel asking about brunch. Another text from my support group about Tuesday's meeting. An email from a woman in Oregon who had read my blog and said, Your story saved my life. My chosen family was bigger and healthier than my biological one ever was. I'd learned so much. Family is supposed to be your foundation, not your burden. Love without respect is just manipulation. Saying no to unreasonable demands isn't selfish. It's necessary for survival. Financial abuse is real abuse, even when it comes from people who claim to love you, especially when it comes from them. You cannot save people who don't want to save themselves. I'd tried for years to help my family, and all it did was enable their dysfunction and drain my resources. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's self-preservation. Sometimes it's the only way to force people to face their own choices and consequences. Success you earn yourself is so much sweeter than any approval you beg for. The people who celebrate your victories are your real family. Blood doesn't make you family. Respect, support, and genuine care do. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is close a door, change the locks, and build a life that's truly yours. I stood up and walked into my house. On my wall was the photo from my house closing, me alone, holding keys, forcing a smile through tears. Next to it was a new photo. Me on the porch swing, genuinely smiling, surrounded by Rachel and other friends at my 1-year housewarming party. I posted the new photo online with a simple caption, 1 year later. Still standing. Still growing. Still grateful. Within an hour, 147 people had liked it. The comments were full of support and encouragement. Not one comment from my parents or Derek. And that was okay. That was better than okay. I closed my phone and looked around my living room. At the walls I'd painted myself. At the furniture I'd chosen. At the life I'd built from scratch with no help and constant opposition. Someone at the housewarming party had asked me, Do you regret buying this house? I'd looked around at everything I'd created and said with complete certainty, Not for a single second. This house saved my life. And I meant it. That night, after my friends left, I sat in my quiet house. No drama, no demands, no chaos, just peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you fought for yourself and won. I thought about everything I'd been through. 28 years, trying to earn love from people who only saw me as a resource. 28 years believing family meant sacrificing yourself until there was nothing left. Now I was building something different. A life where I was valued for who I was, not what I could give. Where boundaries were respected and kindness was mutual. Where success was celebrated, not punished. The cost had been high. Legal fees, severed relationships, public exposure, months of stress and fear. But the reward was higher. Freedom, self-respect, peace, the knowledge that I could survive anything because it already survived the worst. I turned off the lights and locked my door. Locks that only I had keys to. I climbed into bed in the house I'd bought with money I'd earned through my own hard work. And I slept peacefully for the first time in years. Tomorrow was Sunday. I had no plans except to exist in the space I'd created. To drink coffee on my porch swing. To read a book in my garden. To simply be, without owing anyone anything. And that felt like the greatest victory of all. If you've experienced something similar with your own family, or if you've ever struggled with setting boundaries with people who claim to love you, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting yourself? What did you do? How did it turn out? Please share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else find the courage to say no. And if this story resonated with you, if it helped you feel less alone or gave you a new perspective on family dynamics and financial boundaries, please hit the like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people navigating difficult situations and coming out stronger. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who might be going through their own struggle with family expectations and financial pressure. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for witnessing my journey from that lonely house closing to genuine peace. I hope that whatever battles you're fighting, you find the courage to protect yourself and the wisdom to know you deserve respect, even from family. Especially from family. Take care of yourselves. You're worth protecting.